Messi getting tackled even after the final whistle. It looked like he's has his fill of it there. We'll talk about Bayern in a moment, Brian, but that's an incredible stat that Dave just gave us there. PSG, their 5th last 16 exit in the last 7 seasons. The quest is for Champions League glory for the Qataris and the ownership and all that. Does it feel further away than ever?
I would say so, because I think they're torn between the methodology that they went for from the beginning, which was to buy the biggest stars and throw them all out together and hope that worked for them, and get in very expensive managers with big reputations and get rid of them at the end of the season when they don't win the Champions League, or when they get knocked out of the Champions League, get rid of them. And now they seem to have turned a little bit towards, well, maybe we should bring some young players through, and we saw a few of them coming onto the pitch tonight, and get a manager who believes in team building and building a well-balanced side and taking some of the egos out of the club. But, you know, it's poke-marked with all sorts of problems and lack of planning and not knowing really where they're going or how to do it.
It's just a bit all over the place.
And interference by people in team selection and recruitment that doesn't help them to find a team or find a way to win the biggest competition in Europe. And they're nowhere near it tonight. I mean, you could say, well, until Bayern got the second goal, they were still winning the match. But they didn't do enough. And depending on Messi at his age now, you saw how ineffective. I mean, I can't remember a match before that we've covered sitting in this studio where we didn't say before the match, we better keep an eye on Messi tonight and see what he does. Because we weren't expecting him to do an awful lot. We were expecting he might do something. You were hoping he might do something. But not enough. And Mbappe didn't do enough either. And we'll show that later on. And the supporting cast weren't good enough. I thought Vitinha in the middle of the pitch did quite well. The trio, they were more compact and they were better organised and disciplined. But not good enough. Stuff we said about Bayern before the match, about the collective, about team organisation, discipline, everybody working and scrapping.
That's what told in the end?
Yeah.
Yeah, comfortable
Job well
win.
done.
Richard Dunn, we just heard from Brian there, giving his sense that the superior team collective of Bayern was the difference between the two teams. What do you think?
Very similar. We all know what individual brilliance PSG have, but when a team works together to nullify that, it's very difficult to show it. And Bayern Munich, maybe the first half they were open a little bit down that left-hand side, but the second half it never happened. So that shows a team that's willing to work together, to get organised, to sacrifice themselves for the better of the team. And it's the same problem every year for PSG. You look at their side and you think, oh, they've got match winners here and there, but generally they go out, I think you said 5 out of the last 7 years. It's been the last 16. And I think you look at their squad tonight and they didn't have really anyone on the bench. I think there was 5 really young players on the bench.
Is that the big takeaway from this, Richard, that, you know, you do your pre-match chat about PSG and you look at Mbappe and you look at Messi and even you look at Donnarumma and Ramos and players like that, but they brought on 2 17-year-olds tonight. You know, on the bench there was 2 20-year-olds, 2 17-year-olds, 2 18-year-olds. And the feeling is that the wages that they're paying for Mbappe and Messi, and they've already got in trouble financial fair play. They've a suspended fine of 55 million euros in the pipeline if they don't sort out that wage bill, that actually it's holding them back, that they've this ridiculous situation where they're putting on teenagers in a big Champions League match.
And you talk about the salaries, and you probably had Ramos today, who's on a massive salary on a free transfer. Donnarumma came on a free transfer. Verratti will be on a big wage. The whole team's unbalanced. The whole squad's unbalanced. There's no competition for places. If Verratti's fit, he plays every week. Obviously Mbappe, Messi and Neymar, when they're fit, they play every week. And then you've also got the problem of their actual league. There's no real competition for them in the league. There's a couple of teams a few places below who fight them for a couple of months of the season, but generally it's finished early and there's no real desire. So tonight, when in the second half, when Bayern Munich start pressing them a lot higher up the field, putting them under pressure, they don't come up against that in the French league at all. So that's a difficult situation for them, which they can't fix. They can't go out and help other teams. But I think overall, their squad, for all the money, all the thoughts that they're a superpower in world football, they've not built a squad. They've not built a squad to challenge for the Champions League, and it's almost back to the drawing board for them. Whether they can keep hold of Mbappe or not long term is another thing, but they need to have a look at their whole squad, and because they're not like, you look at Man City, and Man City have been getting closer and closer to winning the Champions League, and you think they will get there because of the way they're going. PSG look no closer to winning the Champions League now than they did 10 years ago.
Isn't that the thing? You were talking before the break, Brian, about how they were sort of, we're going to try and change things around and bring through players from the academy, but oh God, we have to keep Mbappe. We just give him the sun, the moon, the stars, whatever, €1 million a week that he's on, and then the financial fair play thing. We got to balance that as well. Like, is that what makes the whole project sort of almost an impossible thing to get the balance right in?
Impossible, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it needs a proper structure in the club where it's not about, the Qatari owners dictating the policy. I mean, they can agree a policy and have a director of football in place and a manager in place, but they've got to let them go off and do their work and be advised by good football people and intelligent football people how to go about it. I mean, would say, for instance, Manchester City or another fairly well-run club, or some of the English clubs that we're quite familiar with, or Bayern Munich, have signed Ramos? No. Would they have signed Messi? I think no, on the wages that they have to pay. As Richard said, it's outlandish. But it's also kind of, they wouldn't have coped with the idea of Messi just stay around and play. Every now and again when the ball comes to you, do something, lovely pass through the middle, but you don't have to walk through the team. And that's, they don't have any, to me, any great core values at PSG or how they're going. Like, there's a bit about entertainment and scoring goals, but Richard said they can do loads of that within their own league, and they can do it in the group stages. They lashed, I think, Maccabi Haifa 7-2 in the group. They beat Juventus 2-1 in both games. Juventus, who are average enough this year, but they couldn't beat Benfica in either game. Now we see Benfica doing quite well. They drew with Benfica in both matches, 1-1. But as Richard said, they can't adapt to the biggest of games, to the discipline and the way the game fluctuates when you might be behind and you've got to find a way of breaking down a good side, or when you're ahead, can you hang on to it? Now, on this tie, they haven't been ahead in either match, but they had the advantage of the home game, and they weren't good enough to take the game to Bayern, to deal with the energy and tactics of Bayern. Like, who take risks and are courageous in the shape. Coleman as a wide wing back on the right-hand side, play with three centre-backs, leave it quite open down the side of the centre. You'd say Upamecano, would he be quick enough to deal with the problems? They put in the young fella Stanisic tonight on the right side of the back three, and he played very well, coped with it very well, but it wasn't like he had loads of protection on the outside of him on the back five. Their system is almost 3-2-4-1. The wing backs are so advanced. Davies, that's the courage they play. That's what their supporters expect.
They have values.
They have values. They've consistency and they've history. PSG is a making up recent history of what they're trying to do now, and it hasn't been successful. And I, for one, I'm quite happy to see them get knocked out. I don't believe in the project of PSG. I don't believe in that idea that if you have the most money and you have the oil dollars, that you should be able to buy the team and buy the trophy and win it that way. I don't believe, or that part of it should be to throw out the manager at the end of any season if you don't win that particular competition because you don't think he's good enough. They've had great managers and they keep turning them over and hoping that they get lucky with one of them.
Yeah, we looked at list them before the game. And is that what's cost them in the end, Richard? That it's the project of a country that wants to make a statement about itself. And as Brian says, okay, they had this thing. Well, we were talking about Luis Campos, who came in as sporting director back end of last season, and he brought in Galtier. He's the man to build the team. But the owners wanted to have Messi, Mbappe and Neymar for the Qatar World Cup, front and centre. They're our boys. Pay them whatever they want. and everybody look at us and say that's the PSG players starring at the World Cup, and we own football, basically. We own the world of football. And in terms of building a team, the result is tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's always, I suppose people look back and go, well, how many Champions Leagues did you win, or stuff like that? And PSG are nowhere near winning the Champions League. So the players will always move on. They'll find new superstars, but eventually they're going to have to build a team, which probably isn't full of Mbappe, Messi and Neymar, but full of people like Kimmich, like De Ligt, people who do their jobs correctly in the right positions. So, like Brian says, you don't want to see them succeed because they're not going to succeed because they're not building in the right way. There's no culture in the club. There's no history in the club. It's just, right, who does everyone think's the best in the world? Let's get him here and let's see how many jerseys of his we can sell and stuff like that. And I spoke to the manager of Monaco last season. They beat them 3-0. And their team talk, their sort of tactics for the game, we're going to play down the right-hand side because we know we can just get out past Neymar now easy because he won't track back. So if you're one of the best footballers in the world and another team is exploiting your defensive, it's embarrassing. You know what I mean? He shouldn't be like that. He should be terrified of people like that.
That's about going back to what I said. You can't carry fellas.
Yeah.
Modern
seen as a weakness rather than as
carry players who are not going to work for the team, who just are about their own bit. And have I pulled something out of the bag? Have I done a little dribble, thrown a few shapes, had a shot, scored a goal? But I'll leave the rest of it to the rest of them. Let them do the run around, the work and the hard work and the graft. And then I'll do a few tumbles when I get a tackle. And that's at times.
It's the same thing every year, though, Brian, is it? We've been sitting here last 10 years and it's the same sort of thing,
when they were beaten
isn't it?
in the final by Bayern Munich a couple of years in 2020, there was no crowd at the match, which I kind of think is ironic. There was no crowd at the match to watch the Stars. But there was a bit of me wanted them to win it because of I wanted to see Messi win another Champions League after the demise of Barcelona. There was a bit about that I liked. I like the emergence of Mbappe. I really like him. I like the fun he plays with. Obviously, he's been messy to deal with at the start of this season, threatened to leave and looked like he was leaving, and took the president to come in and get involved, Macron, for them to stay. There was a bit of me there at that time, but after that, no, I just bringing Messi into the picture now. At this stage, like at that time, it was Neymar, Di Maria, and Neymar.
Cavani, was it?
What?
Cavani
was around at that time, and there was a little. But now I just go.
Kind of.
I don't want them. And tonight, I mean, there wasn't enough about them tonight. They really wanted it themselves. It was. It was pure enough. I mean, Bayern, far better team over the
he is right now and for the future. Not letting you away with this one though, Richard, because at half-time we were saying how would Bayern change it, and you were saying, well, get Choupo-Moting off anyway. A few minutes later, the crucial goal of the night. And could have had one before, couldn't he?
You would have scored this goal, Tommy. It's pretty simple. To be fair, he started the second half quite well. He had 2 or 3 touches where he controlled it and moved it, and it looked a little bit slicker. But I think the higher intensity in the second half helped him. But again, PSG overplaying at the back, great press by Munich, and then clever play. What PSG missed was that final pass, and Muller has a decision here: shoot or play it to the player who's 100% going to score, and he lays it off, and it's a simple tap in for Choupo-Moting.
Yeah, you were both sort of calling for his head at half-time a bit, but 17 goals this season. Can they win a Champions League with him up top, or is Sadio Mane coming off the bench? Is that the future for them?
If they keep going the tournament, I mean, Mane didn't give him a long to play. He's played half an hour of the last 2 league games. I thought they'd look to get him on a bit earlier because I thought a lot of their best attacking play was breaking down when it got to Choupo-Moting. But as you said, he's having the best season he's had many years. I mean,
ever in his career in terms
he
of
had
goals
the season with Mainz, I think, where he got 10 goals before he went to Stoke. And he didn't score many. He got 5, I think, for Stoke in 30 matches in the Premier League in 2017. And then miraculously he goes to PSG. Now, he didn't get a chance to play at PSG because of Cavani, Di Maria, Neymar and Mbappe. So he was only getting the odd match, getting 3 or 4 goals. He goes to Bayern Munich. It seemed another strange move by Bayern Munich to sign him. But now he's getting to run the team because of Mane's injury, and he's doing the job for them and scored a goal tonight. I thought they'd bring on Mane earlier, but look,
that sort of set it up perfectly, isn't it? A good story. It set it up perfectly though for Bayern after that. There were a few. We'll see the goal now that really rounded it off. Gnabry's goal. A few situations like this before it where they could have killed its counter-attack. It was going to come, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, look, you know, they had brought a few fresh players on the pitch. Cancelo was full of running with 3 minutes to go. And Gnabry, lots of time and space. Just a question whether he was offside. But once again, Richard showed a bit in Kimmich before the match, his involvement, winning the ball back. And that's the energy of the team and the responsibility they take in different positions. And we pointed out before the game, there are lots of good options on the bench, not starting. Sané and Gnabry, who in previous Champions League seasons we've done them prior to the match, saying how effective they are in the wide positions, getting in around the box, getting onto the ending, scoring goals. They've lots of options now for the attacking positions.
They do indeed.